Call to the member for Chisholm.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy. How is the Albanese Labor government ensuring Australia's biggest emitters contribute their fair share of emissions reductions? Why is this important, and are there any threats to progress?
Give the call to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy.
Well, thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the honourable member for her question. I note that it's the second question the honourable member has asked me this week, which means she's asked me twice as many questions this week than the Shadow Minister for Climate Change and Energy has asked me this year, Mr Speaker. So I thank the honourable member for her interest. And as the honourable member knows, this parliament does have an opportunity in this coming period to implement very important reforms. Welcome back to Australia. Welcome back after your successful movie tour of Japan, Mr Speaker. I recommend these movies to honourable members. Nuclear, What We Can Learn from Hiroshima, and the sequel. Nuclear, What We Can Learn from Fukushima, Mr Speaker. They're all-time classics from the honourable member opposite. And Mr Speaker, the member for Chisholm asked me about the opportunity and the necessity of reducing emissions from our large industrial emitters. And we have the opportunity. If you're going to write a note, you have to do it in Texter. You have to do it in Texter. Nobody can see that. Mr Speaker, we have an opportunity in this parliament to ensure that we reduce emissions from our 215 biggest emitters. And industry and business are crying out for this certainty. This came up this morning at the AFR Business Summit, where business leaders, one after another, called on the opposition to support the passage of this legislation. Tim Reid, the President of the Business Council, said it was disappointing that there was a lack of bipartisan support for the safeguard reforms and indicated that business supports it. Frank Calabria, the CEO of Origin Energy, said we think we should get on with it and move forward. We support the safeguard mechanism. And of course, the crediting mechanism, as we have always indicated, was the policy of the previous government we are seeking to continue, Mr Speaker. We are seeking to actually implement it. And it was no on the spur, it was no one-off policy from the previous government, Mr Speaker. In October 2019, the previous government commissioned a review, and then on the 19th of May 2020, that review reported and recommended below the baseline crediting, and the government accepted that. The then minister gave a press conference and said, it is so important that we introduce below the baseline crediting. Then they issued consultation on the design. Then they took it to the election. And then, of course, recently the member for Hume said they'd already legislated it and it was working, when it was not legislated, Mr Speaker, and clearly was not working because it wasn't the law of the land. We are making it the law of the land. So they've had multiple occasions when they supported this, except when they actually get a chance to vote on it in the parliament, because we've introduced it, something they never got around to doing, Mr Speaker. They've become so negative, they're not only opposed to our policies, they're opposed to their own.